Recently we did an episode on spokeshaves. Somebody said, how do you use one? How do you sharpen it? Today we're going to show you how. Hey, the link at the top of the screen will show you the episode we did about multiple spokeshaves. But what I wanted to do today is show you how to take one and sharpen it, actually, because that's one of the big questions that we got. So I took this Stanley 151 that I recently found with Benjamin at a yard sale. And I took the blade out, disassembled it. I'll show you how to assemble it back here in just a second. And put it in this Veritas sharpening gauge. Works really well. And the first thing I did is we took the back of it. We got the back nice and straight. And this is on like 325 grit diamond stone. You got to have the back here nice and flat because you're pulling this plane up to this plane. So the back's got to be nice and clean. So we did that. Let's tighten this up just a bunch. Get it in there. Cleaned up the back. Got that nice. And obviously I did a whole bunch of this off camera because it was in pretty rough shape. But we got the back nice and flat. So we brought this plane up. And what sharp is you're going to take the plane here and you're going to intersect the plane that's here. And the smaller that intersection, the sharper your tool's going to feel. So I've got it set in there. And literally, I set this on there with the gauge, the angle that was already under the surface. I just set it in there, adjusted it in and out to get to the angle of the face on the opposite side there. And then we're just going to take this and run it back over here a bunch of times. And let's do this just so you'll see it easier. You want to kind of see where you've been and where you're going. Take yourself a little Sharpie and put on that rough face like that. Let that dry on there. Then when we turn this over, you'll see what happens and what kind of a result we're going to get. Let's see what that just gave us. Nice clean edge that you can see there. And just that little bit. We'll do a few more. And you can see what it did there. It got that nice and cleaned up there. So we've got a good surface there. I can feel a little bit of a burr coming across the back of it, which just means when I'm coming across this way, it's pulling some of that material up and out to this backside. So I can feel just a little bit of a burr on that side. And I can feel that all the way across. So we've been all the way across there. What I'm going to do with this diamond stone is I'm just going to turn this over because one side is 325. The other side is 600. And that's all I typically go with in terms of grit on a spoke shave. It doesn't have to be all that fine stone. I don't need to take it up to 12,000 or anything like that. So I'm going to put this back on. Again, just so we can see kind of where we've been, where we're going, where we've been. And these Sharpies are handy. And here we go. We'll roll this up. And some people will say you can push it both ways for a little more efficiency. And I guess ultimately you can, but I like to just draw it back because I want that material that I'm drawing off to come back up and create that burr on that backside. And it's not going to take much to get this cleaned up. So let's see what we've got there. We've got a nice clean edge all the way across. And that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be the full dimension of the bevel that's on there. That's the only part that's going to be in contact with the wood and making any cuts. I've got a little bit of a burr here on the back. So we're pretty sharp right there. We'll do that a few more times. Then I'm just going to knock that burr off the back. One swipe across there. The burr is gone. We are genuine sharp on the front of that. So we're going to take this out of our little Veritas angle gauge here. And this is a small little angle gauge. It works great for doing spoke shaves. It also works pretty good for doing chisels and all that. So that's why I have it. And those are the things I use it for. But that cleaned up real nice. We've got a nice fresh edge on there that you can see. We're real happy with that. It feels real sharp. So we're going to take it over here. And what I did on the bottom of our slide face here on the spoke shave, I just took my random morbid disc sander and literally just hit that and sanded it up because it was there was some rusty, crusty nonsense on there, so I just sanded it off, and then I took my paste wax, cleaned it up. Now it's going to run across and be just smooth as glass. So the thing about the Stanley 51 is it has this mechanical means of adjusting the depth of your cut. I'm going to set this in there. It rides right on those two pieces, so if I want to take the blade in and out, all I do is turn these in the direction that I want my blade to go. And let's put our lever cap in place. We'll take that back out so it'll be fairly even. And the tension on this, obviously there's a screw that it rides on here. And then you've got your tensioning screw for your locking cap. That's going to go ahead and lock our blade into place real well. Just like that. And then I'm going to get down here underneath on the bottom side of this. And I'm going to run my finger across there to feel it. I've got very little blade sticking out, so I'm going to tighten this down just a little bit. Try to pull some of that blade out of there. Way too much on that side. We'll back it out and come back in again. A little bit there, very little on this side, so I'm going to put a little tension on that one to pull it out. And I'm going to take an eyeball on it here real quick. See which way it's coming out of there. You might not be able to see this because it's so small, but what I've done here is I've taken this side of my Spokeshave and I've got a fairly heavy cut over here. And on this side, I've got it down to where there's a very light cut. So I want that kind of to be at an angle in terms of my blade sticking out. So when I'm cutting on my piece of wood, if I want to take just a slight shaving, I can come over on this side. If I want to take a heavier shaving, I can come over to this side. So I can use kind of the depth of my cut adjustment to determine how much material I'm taking off at any one time. So with that in mind, let's walk over to my shaving horse. And I've got a spindle here that I'm making a rocking chair out of. My buddy Lenny and I get together and make rocking chairs on Monday evenings. So this is one that we're working on. And started out as a square piece. So I made a 2, 4, 6-sided piece out of it. I guess you call it a hexagon. Did that on the bandsaw. I got a jig to run that in on the bandsaw. And my shaving horse here that we made a couple years ago, pretty heavy duty, really good shaving horse, literally for shaving spokes and stuff. Got this cool tractor seat from a guy out in St. Charles, Minnesota. Guy by the name of Amish John. Cool Amish guy that runs a antique shop out there. In addition to being a farmer and a big egg producer, but this is pretty neat in that it's got the pedal here that operates to the dumb head up here, and I put angled troughs in there, so this will sit down in there and it'll hold it nice and tight. We've got a leather pad on this side so it doesn't mar our wood, and ultimately it's adjustable in terms of the thickness of the pieces that I've got, so I can pop this pin out. I can lower the head down here and do a bunch of stuff. I can determine here how far away from me that part actually sits. So all I got to do is lock this in, put it into place, put my foot on it. My foot holds it in place. When I want to turn it, just take the weight off, turn it, take the weight off, turn it, take the weight off and turn it. So with that, I can go ahead and put that in there real easy. I'm going to set this down for 1 second, and I'm going to make this easier for you to see by grabbing this Sharpie again. And you'll be able to see what we're taking off of this. We'll put a bunch down that line and that line and that line. And we'll just do this all the way around. And that's only necessary for the fact that I want you to be able to see the kind of process that I'm going to make here. And I'm going to taper this down. I'm going to leave the center full thickness, and we'll clean up and get rid of the saw marks, but I'm going to taper it down to the end here. And if this were one that I was actually going to use on my rocking chair, I would put this in a lathe and I would turn the end of this down to a 1/2 inch, perfect 1/2 inch in diameter, because that's the size of the hole that it's going to fit into on the seat of the chair. But just for illustrations, I'm just going to keep this one here, and I'm going to show you this, how to facet this. So let's see if we're, how good we are on our blade adjustment here. We need to come down a little bit more on both of them. Tighten up our blade, and we're going to turn this, go to another facet, and see what that does for us. One thing good about the Spokeshave is you can turn around and go the other direction too. What I noticed on this facet was the grain is running this way on the board, so when I was pulling back against it, I was going against the grain. Let's go over to another one over here on this side and see where our grain direction is going. There we go, our shortcut. There we go, now we're making progress. And how I'm getting it tapered is I'm making short passes here, overlapping that pass, overlapping. So I might have one pull up here, I might have 6 down here. By just starting out and overlapping them. Let's get our pieces out of there. Short, making them longer, longer, and longer. There I'm against the grain again. Boy, this is just not cutting well. And then we're making our tapers. We're keeping our facets on our board. We're making our tapers. And obviously I'm taking off a lot of material there on that high end. So let's back that out a little bit so it doesn't cut quite so much. That one too. Then let's go back at that. That's the kind of shavings that we want right there. You want to take multiple light passes. Eventually we'll get this thing tapered down and there we go. We have a nice tapered spindle. And it takes a little bit, but perfection can be achieved by putting in the effort. And I'm going to take this end down past the 1/2 inch just for illustrations, and we'll get nice long draws on there. Make that work. There we go. I'm taking this down a little bit more than I would if I was going to use it, but those long draws like that will keep our nice facets in order. And away we go. I'm going to clean that out. We might just as well switch around and do the other end too, as long as we're at it, just so you can see how quick this really goes. And the whole idea is I want it tapered on the ends, and we're going to have the thick part in the center stay intact, just to add a little bit of, I don't know, aesthetic to it, a little bit dimension to it.
Now, Tim, I see that you're making facets. Is it possible, if someone ever wanted to use a Spokeshave, to be able to make a perfectly rounded edge?
Oh, absolutely. We can turn this end round if we want.
With the same tool?
Same tool. Same tool, you can make it round. You know, I'm purposely at this point keeping the facets in there and running it straight out, straight on, straight across to clean it up. All we have to do to make this end round is literally go after those high spots here, those edges, and just literally roll it over like this. Roll our way around it. Perfectly around. Let's go back over to this one. Clear that. Make that nice and round like that. Real easy. This turned out to be a pretty nice little spoke shave. It's a nice find. Does a good job. And I'm just working my way around it. Taking off the peaks of those facets. And if you look at the end of that, it's almost perfectly round. A little more refining would make that nice and round.
So show me the other end where you just did the...
So there I have my facets. That way. And on this end, we're just working on making it round. And there's actually round bladed spoke shaves that you can get to even be better at making it round. But
do you have a fancy one that's got both?
Yep. We've got this is a Stanley 151. There's a Stanley 61 back on the workbench that would make it round. So let's set this one down quick. Give me just a second to step over here. Step over the shaving horse, not trip over the shaving horse. Yeah. That one has a round bottom and a square. So when I get this refined enough to where it's mostly round, I can take this round face and clean it up even better. This is set for a real light cut. I can feel it. You can't, but it feels really, really smooth, really, really round. It does a great job. And it's so convenient having this shaving horse here. The whole stuff, literally just off weight, take the foot off of it, turn it, lock it back down. It's so much nicer than doing this on a bench vise where you got to loosen the vise up by hand and do all that.
Speaking of, for our viewers, how would you do this if you didn't have a shaving horse?
If I didn't have a shaving horse, I'd be locking it into, I'd be locking this into my leg vise here on the bench. I'd lock it in about like that. Pull it up nice and snug. Be standing here doing it this way. And a lot of times what I'll have to do, because it's going to rock like this, is put your thumb on the back side of it, to hold it up and be pulling it through. So with that in mind and how inconvenient that can be, build a sawhorse, build a shaving horse. It's the way to go. If you've got, you can crank it up to a degree, but it's only going to go so far to tighten it up. And boy, that locks in there nice. And right there you have a faceted spindle and a perfectly round end. And if you really want to get to cleaning that up even better, you can go up here and grab the last kind of the final phase on cleaning up your spokes like that is to get a card scraper and just come around there with your card scraper and finish it off.
You've talked about this before, but why would you use a card scraper and not a sander, Tim? Like, what's your preference?
It's just a preference for how to do it. I can get sandpaper in here and sand on it too, but a card scraper is just a cooler, old-fashioned way of doing it. And once you learn how to sharpen a card scraper well, look what you can accomplish with that.
You have a video on that too, right?
Yeah, there's a link to a video on how to sharpen the card scraper in there too. And that's how it works. And that's just, you know, just about as smooth as I would get it if I had a sandpaper on it. And, you know, with the type of rocking chair that we're working on, and, you know, what I typically do with these kind of things is I'm not looking for machine-made perfection. If I wanted machine-made perfection on this, I'd put it in a lathe and spin it down on a lathe. But I want that hand-hewn look to it. I want it to look like it's been done by hand, not done by machine. You know, I don't produce factory-made furniture. So I can get that hand-hewn imperfection on a piece and still have the desired aesthetic and the desired look on it. You know, I can do the same thing on the opposite end. You know, with my facets being flat, I'm just running it flat across, so that's against the grain. So let's go over here. I can clean up that facet all the way down my piece by just holding it nice and flat. Refine those facets until they're all about the same width and dimension, and I can get all the symmetry I want if I want symmetry.
It's probably something else that's cool about a card scraper is it is a flat surface.
Yeah,
It's non-conforming.
Yeah, and it'll keep it nice and flat like that, and away we go. So those are the things that you can do. I mean, look at the facets on that. They're pretty dang close for something done quick. And clean off the ones in the middle, and clean those up as well. One thing you can tell is if you're going against the grain, it doesn't like that. Let's turn it that way instead then. Cooperation will be mandatory. It's pretty easy. It tells you when you're going against the grain pretty quick. It's pretty rough. There we go. So there we have our spindle. And this is just an example piece, but if I were to be making my final pieces, it would all be done here with the facets on the end. Then I'd have spun this down on a lathe and gotten that to a perfect 1/2 inch for the hole that we need versus guesstimating it. But, you know, this one here, after having made it round and hit it with the Spokeshave, it almost has a gloss shine on it, like you would get if you sanded it down to 600 grit or something like that. So it's nice and smooth. So there you go. That's how you use a really cool Spokeshave. Sharpen it, how to set it up, how to use it, make your Spokeshave do its thing, and use your shaving horse as your clamping mechanism, and how to hold it all in place. So right there, I hope that answers your question on Spokeshaves and how to sharpen them, how to set them up, how to use them. Go ahead and comment down below. That's what got us to this video this morning, was somebody asked the question of how to sharpen it, how to set it up, and how to actually use it. So go ahead and comment down below, and if there's something you'd like to learn about using a Spokeshave or a shaving horse, let us know.